Their greeting the day they meet Him will be peace, and He has prepared for them a noble reward. Ya ayyuhan nabi, O Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, inna arsalnaka shahidan wa mubashiran wa nadhira. Indeed, we have sent you as a witness and a bringer of good news and as a warner. Wa da'iyan ila Allahi bi'idhnihi, and one who invites to Allah by His permission. Wa sirajan munira, and an illuminating lamp. And give good tidings to the believers that they will have from Allah great bounty. And do not obey the disbelievers. Who are the disbelievers? Those who don't even believe in you, who don't even believe in the Qur'an, those who come and attack you from the front. Don't listen to them. And also, do not listen to the hypocrites. Don't obey them. Who are the hypocrites? Those who are apparently with you, but they attack you from behind you. Do not listen to them. وَدَعْ أَذَاهُمْ, and leave their adha. This means do not harm them, but the stronger meaning over here is that do not care, leave, meaning do not care about the hurt that they cause you. Meaning ignore what they say to you. Ignore what they do to you. And rely upon Allah. And sufficient is Allah as disposer of affairs. You see, a believer, who is he? A believer is the one who surrenders, who submits to the commands of Allah. And who is it that opposes the commands of Allah, verbally and physically? Who? Either that person is a disbeliever or he is a hypocrite. You understand? Because a believer, he will not oppose the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A person who criticizes, who objects at the commands of Allah, who opposes them, either verbally or physically, then he is not in the ranks of the believers. He's not there. O you who have believed, when you marry believing women and then divorce them before you have touched them, meaning before the marriage was consummated, then there is not for you any waiting period to count concerning them, meaning then for that woman there is no iddah. So provide for them and give them a gracious release. And now in the following ayah, the marriages of the Prophet ﷺ are mentioned. Remember that the marriages of the Prophet ﷺ, they were very unique. They were all very different. The Prophet ﷺ, he was married to Khadija radhiallahu anha. And as long as he was married to her, he married no other woman. No other woman. And what happened? After the death of Khadija radhiallahu anha, when the Prophet ﷺ's children were young, and the responsibility was huge, he was advised to marry Sauda radhiallahu anha. And he married her. And then the Prophet ﷺ also married Aisha radhiallahu anha after that. And then we learned that when the Prophet ﷺ did hijrah to Medina, what happened? There was battle after battle. And there were women in that society who were now left without families. And you see, the Prophet ﷺ, when he did hijrah to Medina, he didn't just say, oh, we're supposed to be helping each other. No, he established a bond of brotherhood between the Sahaba. Brotherhood between the Sahaba. So what about the women now, who are left alone with their children? Who's going to support them? Who's going to take care of them? We learned that Hafsa radhiallahu anha, her husband died in one of the early battles. And so her father, Umar radhiallahu anhu, he was worried about his young daughter. He went to Abu Bakr, he went to Uthman radhiallahu anhu, and he said, why didn't you marry my daughter? Because Uthman radhiallahu anhu's wife had passed away recently, the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, why don't you marry? He said, I'll think about it. He went to Abu Bakr radhiallahu anhu, he said, I'll think about it. Now you see how Umar radhiallahu anhu is taking the proposal? Can you marry my daughter? Can you marry my daughter? I'm worried about her. She's deeply grieved. Who married her? The Prophet ﷺ married her. Salama, her husband was killed also in one of the early battles. Who married her? The Prophet ﷺ married her. And this was basically setting an example that look, just because a woman is widowed, she was previously married, doesn't mean that she has to be treated like an outcast. And sadly, this is something that has become very common in our cultures. A woman, a girl, who never married previously, perhaps she was engaged once upon a time, and now she's maybe 26. What happens? People say, old. Oh, really? How is she old? I mean, girls who are 24 years age, what happens to them? They're concerned, nobody's going to marry me, nobody's going to marry me. I'm getting older and older, year after year. And what happens to girls who are divorced or who are widowed? What about them? What about them? You see, marriage is not just about, sexual desire. It's about intimacy. It's about having a close companion. It's about finding comfort and closeness, because human beings, we need each other. We need that close bond. We need it. So we see that the Prophet ﷺ married all of these women. Why? To set an example that these women, they are part of our society. They must not be treated as an outcast. And look at the value they can bring. Look at the value that Salama brought, that Sauda radhiyallahu anha brought, that all of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ brought. And then we learned that later on, when the Prophet ﷺ married, for example, Juwayriyyah radhiyallahu anha, Safiya radhiyallahu anha, these were women who were brought in as captives. But once the Prophet ﷺ married them, what happened to all of their relatives? The Sahaba, they set them free. That how can we keep the in-laws of the Prophet ﷺ as our servants? No way. Not at all. So you see how much benefit they brought? And when these women, because Juwayriyyah radhiyallahu anha, for example, she was a princess. Alright? And she was given the choice. If you wish, you can marry. Right? And if you wish, you can remain as you are. It's up to you. She chose to be the wife of the Prophet ﷺ. She was given the offer. She chose that position. And when she was married to the Prophet ﷺ, what happened? Her entire tribe converted because of her. Entire tribe converted. Habiba radhiyallahu anha, she was the daughter of Abu Sufyan. You can imagine, when Abu Sufyan's daughter is in the house of the Prophet ﷺ, would you think he would have enmity for Rasulullah ﷺ now? Right? And remember that out of all the leaders of Makkah, Abu Sufyan was like the only one main leader that remained. Abu Jahl had died, Abu Lahab had died, all these big figureheads, finished. Abu Sufyan was like the main leader left. So his daughter in the house of Rasulullah ﷺ, what does it mean? So anyway, this is not really the time to go into the marriages of the Prophet ﷺ, but the point is that just as the wives of the Prophet ﷺ were different, right? The Prophet ﷺ's marriage was also a different case completely. We cannot look at it as, like for example, an ordinary man marrying so many women. This was for a reason. All of these marriages were for a reason. So, O Prophet ﷺ, indeed we have made lawful to you your wives, to whom you have given their due compensation, meaning their mahr. Even the Prophet ﷺ had to give mahr. So what do you think about other men? They don't need to give mahr? They do. And those your right hands possess, from what Allah has returned to you of captives, and the daughters of your paternal uncles, and the daughters of your paternal aunts, and the daughters of your maternal uncles, and the daughters of your maternal aunts, who immigrated with you, and a believing woman if she gives herself to the Prophet ﷺ. If the Prophet wishes to marry her, this is only for you, excluding the other believers. So no person can say, oh, since I am the leader also, I can have 10 wives. I mean, it's amazing how some people, in the name of deen, and these are Muslims by the way, in the name of deen, they will have 15, 20 wives. These are true. This is true. 15, 20 wives. Even the Prophet ﷺ did not have that many. When he was ordered by Allah, what do you think of yourself? This is only for you, excluding the other believers. We certainly know what we have made obligatory upon them concerning their wives, and those their right hands possess. But this is for you, in order that there will be upon you no discomfort. And ever is Allah forgiving and merciful. So why was this exception made for the Prophet ﷺ? In fact, it was not an exception, it was a command for him. Why? Because he had a very different role to play. He was the one who was sent to establish the deen.